Hello everyone, I'm here with the new champ, Arne Huchenbeth. Maybe someone doesn't know, probably everyone knows, but if someone doesn't know, you just won the Kaldheim Championship on Arena this past weekend. Congrats on that.
Jesus, thank you so much, Pedro. It's amazing. I'm just gonna put the lighting on a little bit more here. I hope that will help. What an incredible tournament, man. So many things went right for me there. I mean, just incredible.
Yeah, we actually did a different interview like 2 months ago, so if people gonna go watch that, they definitely can. Today we're not gonna like focus on like your past necessarily or like who you are as a person, but we're just gonna talk about the tournament. You played blue-black rogues and black-white auras, right? Can you just maybe talk about like how did you arrive to those deck choices? Who did you maybe prepare with? You know, just like go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I didn't have a team for this Pro Tour. I just qualified with a PDQ, like an Arena MIQ, right? And so I was just like Toffel did the team thing, and he got me into like this team 5%. And it's like Austin Bursowich, Simon Nielsen, Ralph Levy, and David Inglis, and a bunch of others. Like a weird mix of sort of talented people. But it was really cool. They were really enthusiastic about it. They were really into it. And well, for standard, I figured out I want to play Sultai probably, or I want to play a deck that beats Sultai consistently. And I mean, Rogues was not so great before that, right? Because like Mono Red was performing well, and Mono White and Cycling, and it had trouble against like the entire field. But Rogues was especially good against the adventure decks and Sultai.
Mm-hmm.
And from looking
was it even good against the Naya Adventures deck, or are you just talking about a teamer deck?
Oh, it's amazing against Naya. It's amazing.
The reason why I'm asking is that like one of the first Pro Tours when like everyone played Naya, you know, a couple people played Rogues, but they just like didn't do well with it even there. So I just like, you know, assumed that the matchup was bad just based on that, but maybe they just got unlucky or something, or
I don't know why. Well, I'm talking about the Naya tokens deck mainly. I
yeah.
Much like a bigger version.
Oh,
but
sure.
Even the Naya Fury deck, it's just even worse, right? They have more expensive spells. They're clunky. You just go under them and you smill them out, right? So yeah, those matchups were really good. So it was basically just an assessment of what the metagame would be, and we were thinking that the adventure decks will be high, Teemo adventures especially, and Sultai will be the most played deck. And then I just decided, instead of coin flipping the mirror or like tuning the mirror to have like 52% against everyone, right? I just wanted to play the deck and risk it, hope that I won't run into Mono Red. So that's how I came to the conclusion to play Rogues. Well, paid off. And the Auras deck was interesting. I wanted to play Blue-White Control. I wanted to play Teferi. I like that deck against my version against the Junt Company deck. Mm-hmm. But then the Junt Food deck just rised all of a sudden in the last few days. I wonder how the tournament would have been without that SCG weekend, to be honest, in Historic. I think it would have been completely different, maybe.
Yeah, I think so as well, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was really cool. And yeah, against Junt Food, Trail of Crumbs, and so on, Blue-White Control just wasn't performing good enough. So I scratched it back.
Yeah, it's actually interesting that you're saying that, like, if you weren't playing as much, you would maybe think that, you know, having company and being more aggressive would be like better against control. But as you said, like, just having trail is probably more important, right? Because it just goes under the counters and stuff.
Yeah, under the rafts, and Grafdigger's Cage is huge too, right? I played.
Oh yeah, sure.
Blue-White. You can just go around that a little bit more. Yeah, so our team was working on this Aura stack, and they were crushing with it. And it was an underdog. Nobody was expecting it. And we even had a solid matchup against Junt, like 45-50% sort of, depending on the list. And it was just crushing everything else, right? Like everything else. So yeah, I just went with the team deck. trusted in their plans, and yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because like every month I'm playing these qualifiers on Arena. Sometimes they're historic, so I actually played my fair share of historic, and like since the day one, anytime I play against this aura deck, I just always got my ass beaten, especially the black white version. And you know, at the beginning you think that it's like kind of a meme deck, you're just like getting unlucky. Then you like maybe kind of figure out how you want to board against it. Like, I don't know, maybe, you know, you realize that it's just having a bunch of nerf sets and something, like, you know, you just kind of get used to the matchup. But then, you know, they instead of playing blue-white, they just play black-white, or they like switch out a couple cards and you like lose anyway. But as you're saying, it was kind of an underdog. So, you know, it's like nice to see that the deck is actually very powerful. I don't feel as bad of a player now. You're losing all of those matches before.
Oh, I lost against it my fair share too. And I'm like, what? This kitty deck? Are you kidding me, man? And another claim fame. What is this? But yeah, it's just very consistent. If you draw one of the 2-drops, you're just doing really well. And Lurrus is just insane too, right? And I mean, what's also really cool about the deck, that people, like, one of the best cards against Junt in the Junt Company was Aura's matchup is like Midnight Reaper, Core Vault. Cards you wouldn't think are good, right? You would think like, oh, I want my Fader Push, I want my Noxious Grass, I want my removal, I just want to survive. But the grindy cards are the important ones, because the Orzhov there can grind so well.
Yeah.
And then I saw how LSV was boarding with Company. He boarded in like 2 Reclamation Sages, boarding out Midnight Reaper, not even thinking about Core Vaults. And I think lots of people boarded like Reclamation Sage, which is just really bad, to be honest.
It's only good at killing the 1-mana Eidolon, right? Besides that, just killing an aura is like pretty bad. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, and you know, you play against this aura deck and you just have like 2 fatal pushes in your hand, and you think like, you know, I'm doing great, like he's just gonna put an aura and I 2-for-1 him, right? But that's actually not how it works. They like draw a card immediately, so you're like 1-for-1ing them. But like the problem is that, you know, from my experience, you just like play 2 removal spell, then they just play the 3rd guy, or they just like go Lurrus, return a guy, put like the black aura on it, and then you just like suddenly completely fucked again. Sorry for my bad word. And you're like, what happened? I just thought I have a nut draw, and you just like get annihilated anyway. Like, I don't know.
It's just so efficient and cheap too, right? Like, if you want to, my match for the 7-0 against Shahar, you can just see he had like 6 removal in a row. Not that much maybe, but he killed everything, and I still won easily.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So what do you actually think is the right approach to maybe beat the deck? First of all, like maybe you can talk about like decks that you actually think are good against it, and you know, after that you can maybe say like what's the right strategy with like the decks that already exist, because as we are saying, just like going 1-for-1 removal game doesn't really work against the deck. So if you have an opinion about that.
Well, I think a right Junt version is definitely good against it. Like, it has like 55%. If you're prepared, if you know your plan, if you have the right cards, Legion's Ends especially, or something like that. But I'm just looking at Goldfish and the meta decks right now, and I mean, like, Elves and like Angels have an edge game 1 because they are more explosive, right? Mm-hmm. Post board, you have, well, Elves, I'm not even that sure. Against the list that we played, we had 4 dead weights, so that's huge in the matchup.
Yeah.
But Angels and Goblins, they might have an edge game 1, but you bring in 4 Hushbringers for those matchups, right? And that's just brutal. I mean, like, Hushbringer Kaya's Ghost Form is just GG against them most of the time. Just like, that's it. So just from looking at the Goldfish top 20 decks or 15 decks here, I mean, there's just nothing. The Sultai Ultimatum deck can be troublesome with Shadow's Verdict. That's a really good card against you. Mm-hmm. I mean, that deck is maybe like a fringe deck that's good against auras. But otherwise, I would just beat your sacrifice decks, build your sacrifice decks to beat it. And I suppose you can also build blue-white to beat it. That's surprising, right? You would think that blue-white matchup is really bad, but against our version that just was playing 1 Ghost Form in the main deck, you can actually build like 4 Baffling and put some Glass Caskets in the sideboard and sensors and stuff, and you're good. Like, Grafdigger's Cage is really freaking good against the Auras deck too. Shots of Lurrus, shots of Claim. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the fact that you were talking about your version with 4 deadweights, but there was actually other team playing auras as well, the Japanese team. but they were playing like a slightly different version. I think they were playing like less claims. They were like more proactive with their auras main deck. Did you look at their deck list? Like, what do you think about the differences?
Well, I first I gotta thank Johnny Goodman. He did an incredible job on our auras deck. He basically did most of the work together with another couple of teammates. So he was just building the deck to beat Jump Company. And I think what we did not do was to adapt to Junk Food quick enough. So our deck was high on dead weight to just get rid of Priest, get rid of Midnight Reaper, and so on. And but it was less proactive, sort of. It was less of a proactive, just protect my guy deck. It was more of a grindy version of the deck with lots of removal, right? And the Japanese, they played 3 Demonic Vigor and 4 Ghost Form. I played 2 Vigor and 1 Ghost Form, so they had 4 more protection auras, which is, I think, a smart main deck choice, to be honest. Because in the main deck, in the first game, you just want to be proactive and have your guys survive. So I kind of like the Japanese version a little bit more than ours. Maybe there's a mix between both of them, right? Maybe you put like 2 more Ghost Forms into my deck and cut like a dead weight or so on. It's also a meta call, right? What do you expect? If you expect lots of low creature decks, then you want the dead weights, right? So you have to assess what you expect.
Auras are good against like generic aggro. You're talking about, when you're saying creature decks, you mean like elves, because they are creature deck, but they kill you basically with combo, and that's why it's bad, because you have a hard time interacting, right? But you don't really care about them like putting a 2/2 into play and attacking you, right?
No, of course not. But like deadweight is perfect against all these lords, right?
Yeah.
1/1 shepherd, and yeah. So that's what I mean by creature decks. Yeah, most like Drool is a buy basically. Like they don't do anything against a free spirit, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's talk about standard. You played rogues. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I am. But you were playing kind of a stock version, right? Or
pretty.
Was there like anything special about your deck list?
We played 26 lands. That's a little unusual. We just decided that. Well, yeah. I have a lot of smart rogue players on my team, like Austin Burser, which was playing the deck for a long time, Taurus Severine. And they just figured that you just want to hit your land drops. You have so much to do with levers. We played a Castle Log Train, which was really good for me against Sultai. It's just really good against Sultai.
Yeah, not only that, sorry to interrupt, not only that you need a lot of lands, but I kind of find that the deck has like sometimes problem with mana. Like, you know, you have Lurus that's double black, you have cards that are double blue. It's a little bit better now because you don't have the Lul Mage. I don't know what's the name of the mind control card. But, you know, back before, it was like a pain in the ass, because when you look at the sources, it just like seems that it's fine, but you also have to decide whether you put a blue land or a black land into play. So like, just because it's like a source on a paper, it doesn't actually work out like that in the game sometimes. So it makes sense that you played so many lands, I guess.
Yeah. And then we played like Mystical Disputes in the main deck. You could play like Bloodchief's First or Domination or more of One Minds. These are like these flex slots, right? Essence Skater. We just decided on Dispute. We were thinking that more people would play rogues. We kind of leveled ourselves in that way. I remember testing with you and the cabin crew way back. We also leveled ourselves, thinking that people wouldn't play Marvel at the Pro Tour, because we'd already found out that Marvel wasn't that good. But in that case, yeah, we thought that rogues was a big deck, and it actually wasn't. Nobody figured out that it was great for this meta game, or like not nobody, but only us and a few other people. Yeah, so we played Dispute in the main deck, and then in the sideboard is just I cut the Soul Guide Lantern. I wasn't expecting much for cycling. The dead weights and the Crippling Fear as the must-have package against like mono white and the other aggro decks, and the rest is basically just tuned against Sultai.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that, you know, before everyone was playing Lul Mage's Domination. Even maybe some people thought it was like kind of a reason to play the deck, right? It just seems like really good to steal a creature for free mana. But like, not only your deck list, but most deck lists don't play that card anymore. Why do you think that is? Do you just think it's like free blue, or you just like have better options? If you can maybe like talk about it a little bit.
I mean, when Rogues was like one of the better decks back then, and Gruul was really big, and stealing a Questing Beast was just absolutely amazing. And nowadays Questing Beast is less played, and I mean, the card is just very difficult to cast, to be honest. And people are playing Brazen Borrowed too, like Team Advantage.
Oh, that's a big reason.
Yeah. And like we had one in the sideboard, but I convinced the team to play an Essence Scatter. Essence Scatter just also good against like Gargaroth, Blue Kranos, and Yorion. Sure, Domination is good there too, but it's a little slow and clunky. Can also easily be disputed in a matchup like that.
So do you maybe think that, you know, even before when people were playing it, maybe it like was like not necessarily good enough back then, or do you think it was like fine then, but like the meta game shifted enough that it's already like, you know, other options are better, or do you maybe think that people just like didn't know that it was bad even back then?
Hard to say. I mean, the card is very clunky, and you have to have 7 cards in the opponent's raid or 8. I mean, like, if you play against Mono Red and you steal an Annex, that's absolutely amazing. But how often are you able to do that on like, the early turns when it's important, right? If the Annex survives 2 turns, you're done. So an Essence Scatter would be like the efficient answer, or like an Eliminate or Harvest Act, right? I'm more leaning towards the efficient answers, but I would say that back then, when Mono Red was a thing, when Lovestruck Beast and Questing Beast were things, maybe it'd make more sense.
Yeah, also back then, like literally no one was playing one of the mine. That's kind of like a, not recent, but like 2 months back kind of a tech, and like almost everyone is playing now. Like we're very happy with that card. Like is it like actively good, or is it more like, well, I just need to like fill my last 4 slots in the deck, and this is like the best option?
I trusted my teammates on that one, to be honest. I was thinking sometimes, gosh, this card is so bad. Like on the draw, you have to draw 2 cards like a divination, and it was like, oh, I just want to have an opt or something, like something cheap to find in my Into the Story. Well, if you find 1 Into the Story, you're good anyways. So I considered playing opt, but my teammate kind of convinced me that it's still good enough, and especially in the post-board games where it's really grindy, just having this effect is good.
Let's talk about. I'm sorry, you.
No, I was happy with it. That's it.
Okay, yeah. Let's talk about some of the games. I actually made a review of your game against Javier, and I was like, when I was posting it, I was convinced that, you know, he's just like, I just didn't get some of the plays, but I a lot of the times when I watch Javier, I'm like, why is he doing that? I just don't get it. But then I like talk to him, and you know, he himself is often not sure whether he played right or not, but he can like explain it enough that, you know, at least it's like super close, and I'm like, oh, and I like start thinking about it, and what he did actually makes sense, even though it might have been like a 50-50 scenario or whatever. He like saw something that I didn't. I don't know if you watched the review or not, but
I did, yeah.
Okay, yeah. What do you think about the points that I said? Do you just like think that I'm wrong? I just want to point out that one thing that I didn't realize was that I was just like focusing on your decks because, you know, I just got the video from where you sideboarded, and I obviously saw how you sideboarded, and I didn't realize that, you know, Javier might necessarily not obviously know that, and I didn't realize that you could have the card Crippling Fear. It's like the 4 mana -3/-3, right? And that probably, you know, maybe you boarded it in like some other game, or he just thought that you might have it, and that probably influenced a lot of Javier's plays, and I just didn't take it into account, and I just didn't understand his plays. Would you think that that's accurate? Like, do you think he like played well, or do you agree with any of the mistakes?
Well, I kind of would have returned Obosh in that game earlier too. Well, first of all, before we get into the game, it's really interesting dynamic, right? Because I know how he sideboarded, he knows how I sideboarded. If you saw, I didn't put my Crippling Fear into my deck again for that match against him, because I expected that
did you ever board it in like any of the, like, could he see on like any of your match videos that you put it in, so that he like might think that you have it, or
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was all live, right? The round 9 we played against each other on Teemo vs Rogues. It was featured, and he obviously rewatched that to prepare.
No, I'm saying, did you board it in back then? I didn't actually saw that.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you even oh, okay. That explains a lot.
I showed you the screenshot, right? Yeah.
Okay. That explains a lot.
Yeah, he knew I bought a 2-in, yeah. And so, well, first of all, it's very interesting too. Like, I saw his entire deck after game 2 in that match. So I saw his entire deck, and he cut all Goldspan dragons. And so I was like, oh wow. Looking at the Crippling Fear, just kills everything besides the 5/5. I think it was a good choice, and I probably should have bought it in our semi-final, in our final match in the finals, but I didn't because I was thinking he would board Dragon in, because I think he would level me, you know. But he didn't. He didn't level me, and I was maybe thinking a little bit too much ahead.
Yeah. So you had a disdainful stroke instead of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. That stroke wasn't great. At least I could counter an overshot.
Did you like show him the, like, it just, I don't know, what I'm trying to say is that, like, you know, you saw in one of the games that he like didn't put the dragons in, and like you didn't show him the stroke or anything. So why did you think that he would like change into the dragons for the last game? Because he already knew how you boarded into round 9, right? So like if he didn't do that for the second game, why would he do that for the third game?
Because he knows what my plan is. He knows I'm boarding -3/-3. Look, I'm playing -3/-3.
No, that's what I'm saying, right? Like,
yeah, I was thinking he would level me. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like, I was thinking he would adapt to my sideboarding strategy, and that's why I didn't board the Crippling Fear. But maybe I was just thinking too much ahead. I gave him too much credit, I guess.
Yeah.
But you know, like against the Crippling Fear, 4/4 Haste Dragon is pretty good, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
And to the games, I mean, I think he could have returned Obosh earlier. I would have done that probably.
What are you thinking about that game 1 land? I think like him having Goat in his deck is like a super big argument to play it. But you know, as I said in the video, like you have like 3 mana spells and 1 mana spells. So if you just draw a bunch of lands, you can like, you know, cycle it. And if you draw spells, you can just put it into play like on turn 2 or turn 3. It's not like that big of a deal. But if you draw a lot of lands, you're just down a card. Like, what do you think about that?
I think it's fine to play. The mana is so bad in this deck. Like, you
That's
really
true.
need to fly him into play.
But he did have the 1/2, right? Like, it's not like you're gonna use a removal spell on the 1/2 for the most part.
That is true.
Like, if he didn't have the 1/2, obviously almost always played, but like he did. So.
Well, I feel like Javier's approach to the matchup was just prevent me from getting 7 cards into the graveyard as long as possible, play very conservatively with his cards, and don't even care about damage, just care about card advantage all the way. So from this approach, I mean, he was just playing 1 turn slower basically the whole game, and he thought it was fine with that. I think it's a fine approach. It worked out well for him in round 9.
Yeah, I saw that game. That was the game where you're just like, you know, I was actually watching it on my couch, and I was like, oh, Arne gets this. It's all fine. And then he drew the beast, and like the best part about it was that he even like, I mean, you probably cannot see from like your position, but he was like counting the mana, and it was like clear that, you know, he's like counting whether he can afford to make the 1/1 and still play a Great Henge that turn, and he's like, oh, I can, so he just played a 5/5, and I was like, oh, okay, Carney, you got this, and I just immediately clicked, okay, I will, no! Did you just not think about Great Henge, or?
That's correct. That is absolutely the correct answer. I mean, I don't know what it is with Great Henge. I'm getting owned by that card so often.
Yeah, I always forget about it as well.
Yeah, you do?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes me feel better about myself. I always forget about it. And I was like, oh, Heartless Act. Nice. Just kill the beast, end of turn, right? Great Henge resolving, yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot of times where I had like a Soul Seer in my hand, and I just said like, go, because I'm like, you know, it's gonna be good against Embercleave down the line or whatever, and they just go right. Oh my god.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, yeah, I would have easily won that match. I feel like if I just countered the beast there, I had like, my hand was completely nuts, right? I just had to have time because I knew he had like 1 or 2 dispute in hand, so I just needed time to resolve my stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about the match against Greg? Obviously, the matchup is good. You know, they said it on coverage. You said it yourself. Do you think, you know, for example, Shota had played like Mazeman Tomb. I even think he kept them in in the post-board games. There's like a lot of ways you can build Sultai. Like for example, I don't know if you play against Sivka, but they were like keeping in all the ultimatums, even post-board. Whereas like Greg was going like more like lower with Gargarots and stuff. What do you think about that matchup? Also like, does it change a lot based on like their version and the way they sideboard, or like how you approach it, or do you like almost always board the same? If you can just talk about it a little bit.
I mostly board the same. There could be, like against Sivka's version, I think I would definitely play the third dispute. I was sometimes not playing the third dispute. Maybe Essence Getter is bad against Sivka's version, like these small tweaks, you know. I think I like the approach that Greg was taking the most. I don't think you have a chance with the ultimatum approach against my list. I just have way too many counter spells. So I definitely like his approach. I think what happened in the finals, in the grand finals, was definitely not a representative of the matchup. It's not that lopsided. It is definitely closer. I played this matchup a lot in preparation, and it is closer. Ezeka's Chariot is huge, and the main deck Pelukranos is huge too. I mean, that one Greg.
Oh, there was actually a game where you could have like drowned in the loch or didn't say please a card, and I'm not saying you made a mistake or not, but you played it, didn't say please, and he melted one of Pelukranos. It's like, oh no.
I had that game locked up. Like, credits to Greg for putting that one copy in his deck, right? That's just smart deck building.
Well, if you're building with rogues in mind, it's definitely very smart to play, you know, one escape card.
Yeah, he got rewarded that game, that's for sure. And that game, Castle Locktrain would have just grinded him out. But yeah, the Pelukranos got me good.
The way Greg boarded, well, I obviously didn't play the matchup, especially from the Sultai side at all, so like I don't really have any idea. But from my perspective, he kind of like looked like he just has like all this ramp, and then he has like one or two like active cards, but you're just like gonna counter them, and then he floods out. What like do you? Whereas, like, if you played against someone like Shota, he will have the tomes, and you know that would necessarily not happen. Like sometimes he can get obviously tempoed out because he just doesn't have you know, time to use the artifact, and you can just like attack him with like the thieves and stuff. But it's just like, I don't know, against a deck full of counters, like it just didn't seem like a good plan to just like, you know, ramp into stuff. Especially, well, first of all, he doesn't really have anything to ramp into. But like the plan of like ramping into playing a guy when you have counters doesn't seem like a winning strategy. But like, what do you think about that?
Well, he was boarding out 2 Haven and 2 Cultivate, a number of Binding the Old Gods, so he's shaping.
So maybe he just got unlucky with his draws, like yeah.
I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, he did. I guess I got super lucky in the finals, but I think you're completely on the right track. The Mace Mind Tome is a perfect addition for that post-board plan, right? If he has a Mace Mind Tome on turn 2 in any of the games, he probably has a much better shot at beating me. I'm not a fan of the card in general, though, because it's just weak to Binding the Old Gods, and it's very slow too sometimes. I think Greg's approach was fine. I feel like, yes, you have that problem that you just can't flat out, and Rogue's deck just grinds you out post-board. I mean, it's just a tough matchup. Yeah. I think it's the best plan you have, because playing 7 mana spells is just not the way to go.
Sure, it's like very interesting that, like, you know, the pros are, you know, the people who understand the game the most, and you're like talking about like these small nuances, but then you just like see this like complete different sideboard plans, and you're like, one of them has to be wrong, right? It just like seems kind of crazy to me that everyone came to like different conclusion how to approach the matchup. For example, Shota did like boarded out all of his disputes against rogues, and he just had like all the good cards basically.
All of his disputes?
And not maybe all of them, but you know, his approach wasn't like go like lower. He was just like tomes and like all the good cards, and probably the way he was like approaching that, he's just like gonna play like big cards, and eventually you run out of counters and he resolves something and you lose or something. Like, I don't know.
Interesting. I gotta take a look at that. When did he play against rogues?
I don't remember.
Okay. Well, very interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to see that so many people. I would love to know what Sivka was thinking. Yeah.
Sivka was basically just like ramp disputes and ultimatum, and you know he was just trying to win with that. I think like he probably thought that it's not like a good plan, but the Gargoyle plan doesn't work, so you have to like try or something. Like I didn't talk to him, so like I don't know. But
Gargarov can be really brutal. But
yeah, for sure. It's also different if you know that like that's his plan, right? Like if you know that, then you can have like Heartless Axe and it like becomes a lot worse.
Yeah, but the problem is that there's so many different cards you have to play around for, especially Greg's list. Like he has so many different cards that Heartless Axe might be good there, but then the other one is not good there. Which is kind of the nice thing about Sultai too. With like an 80 card deck, you just can't play around everything. But yeah, of course, there's definitely certainly ways where you can adjust your deck.
Just to clarify for people, I don't actually know anything about the matchup. I'm just like saying stuff so that you have to explain, basically.
Very good interview, I say.
So now you're well, it's not like a pro tour, but like it's the closest we get nowadays. Now you're like a pro tour champion. How does that feel?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like by now, it has definitely sunk in. And
I saw you be like so excited. You're like, that like I never seen Arne like that. You're just like always calm, you know, always like you're just like German, so you know you're just like very focused, not really joking, not really messing around. But that was the Arne. I don't know. It's like, yes! Well, I guess you actually beat me in the finals of a GP. That was probably the same. I'm not sure if that got you that excited because beating me is easy, but.
Don't be too humble. I mean, it's just fun to show emotions. It's also fun to see the reactions of other people, and why not, right? There's no reason to have poker face all the time. I mean, I enjoyed myself. I'm fine with showing emotions and sharing them. And yes, I felt amazing, of course. It's an amazing achievement. It's the best feeling there is if you win a big tournament, after all that sweat, after all that brain power, all that work, all that preparation going into it. And for this, it's just a culmination of my career, right? Just 5 years of grinding and playing. Never really breaking out on the pro tour, right? I was crushing this GP scene, but never really on the pro tour, and that was just it just feels amazing. It feels like yeah, I got rewarded sort of for all the time.
Do you think that you felt the same excitement as if you like won like a real life tournament? Because obviously at a real life tournament you have like the other people around you. There's like this atmosphere. People are like cheering for you. So obviously when you like do well, you know, at least for me, I think I would get like more excited, you know, just because there are like other people around. You have like these cameras, these like coverage people around you. Was that the case for you, or did it not matter that it was an arena?
Well, it was definitely a weird experience. Like, just think about it. You're sitting alone in your room at 3 a.m. in the morning, and you you have to like celebrate into the camera or something like that. I mean, it's definitely weird. I would have loved to share this moment with my friends, go out for a big, huge dinner, and just celebrate, right? But well, this is how it is. What can you do? It was definitely a weird experience, but it was also nice in many ways. Like getting all these messages, there's this explosion of Twitter notifications, and so on and so on.
How many followers did you get after winning? Do you know?
I think I had like 1,500, and I don't know where I'm at right now. 2,850.
Whoa, really?
Double.
you got 1,300 followers? Wow.
2,800 actually.
No, I mean that's the total, right? But I mean like the difference between before the tournament and after the tournament is 1,300, right?
Yes.
That's crazy. What?
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed by all the support.
Yeah, you should get the most out of it, man. Like this interview, no one's really gonna watch it anyway. But you know, you should squeeze the fruit. Like now you have the momentum, right? It's gonna go away probably. So you know you should get the most. I'm not saying you're like not gonna like start losing, but obviously winning a pro tour doesn't happen every day. So when it does, you should like, you know, really push the advantage, I think. But
Yeah, I'm going back into streaming, so let's see how that goes. Well, I just bought this bike that I'm premiering here on this special occasion with you. So I hope it will continue doing me good, and I will start streaming. I'm also coaching. You can message me on Twitter or check out my website. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, you were talking about that in the previous interview, but I think you were like kind of starting with like a new side coaching or something like that. Like, how is that going? I wouldn't ask about it, but you mentioned it yourself, so I feel obligated to ask.
No worries. It's not going so well before that because I wasn't promoting it at all, to be honest. The website was very.
But now it's like.
Yeah, now some messages are coming in, so that's pretty cool to see. I'm looking forward to doing some coaching.
Well, awesome. It was fun talking with you today. Congrats on the win. You already said it a little bit, but you know, if you can maybe tell people where they can find you on the internet. Right before we end this interview, that would be great. I mean, if you want to.
Yeah, of course. You can find most of the information on my Twitter at Huschenbeth. And I'm also streaming at Twitch TV.
Will be streaming, right?
Will be streaming. Yeah. And yeah, you can find me on GameSensed /Arne Huchenbeth. I'll do coaching, do deck reviews and live coaching.
How much actually is it? Maybe I will book my lesson.
Well, the prices are different for different kinds of services. Just go check it out.
Would it be like really expensive for me?
For you, we might have a friend discount.
All right, guys, if you like the video, please click on the like and subscribe button, and see you next time.